Hey guys, so this next segment is me reading a quick article that I came across about gaslighting, which is a method of basically questioning everything the other person says and finds a way to make them feel crazy, and not taking responsibility for anything. It'll be a lot clearer when I read the article, but I wanted to read it because it is something I've been experiencing for quite a few years and have recently gotten out of that, and I think it's super important to share. And then I'll kind of talk a little bit about it afterwards because it kind of talks about a type of PTSD associated with it, and I kind of feel that it's kind of interesting to come across a description of it because I didn't really know what this feeling was that I've been experiencing over the past few months as I've been kind of separating from my past life, and there's still plenty of things that make me feel really terrible about it and make me question myself a lot, and a lot of things that still make me feel like I was making a bad decision. Not a bad decision, but like that I'm more at fault than I actually am. It's kind of like this endless loop of like, it's almost like running on a treadmill and you're starting to catch up and go, or like, one of those like, those sort of like treadmill flat escalators in airports. It's kind of like you're moving along that really quickly, but going the other way. And someone keeps like pulling you back, and I keep making progress, and then I get pulled back, and somehow I feel like things are my fault, or things were my fault, a lot more than they were, and then you get these reminders that they weren't, and it's just this constant push and pull, and it kind of makes you feel crazy. So I'm going to read a little bit. I'm going to read this article as quickly as I can, hopefully get through it in one segment, and talk about it and talk about it a little bit afterwards, because I think it's pretty important to know what it is and recognize when you're in it, and some of the things that I've learned as to how to deal with it, because it kind of pokes back in with, with my ex-wife talking to me about our child, and we're trying to work through that. That kind of pokes through, and there are methods that I've been using to deal with that, so I want to talk about that as well.
Drums, please.
Okay, so gaslighting. I decided to make this an official podcast so it can be saved for people to read it, to hear it again. Okay, gaslighting is one of the most dangerous and insidious forms of emotional abuse. Left untended, it can have long-lasting effects like self-doubt, anxiety, and low self-esteem. What is gaslighting? In short, it's when someone tells you or implies that your interpretation of reality isn't true. They do harmful things and then deny ever doing those things or minimize the details of it. They discount memories, evidence, and facts in favor of lies. They often accuse you of doing things that they themselves are doing. They rewrite history whenever convenient. Another good word for it is crazy making, because literally making the recipient feel crazy, because it literally makes the recipient feel crazy, questioning their own reality. So what are the warning signs? They provoke you over and over again, then blame you for reacting. Gaslighters love to provoke others. They take inventory of the things that upset you, and then do more of those things. You will likely react calmly the first 3 or 4 times, thinking you resolved the issue, but then they do it again and again and again. You think, how in the world could someone be this dense? Eventually, you react less calmly. This is when the gaslighter jumps on you and accuses you of being hysterical, crazy, sensitive, negative, paranoid, bipolar, or mentally ill. They tell you to calm down and make you feel ashamed of your normal reaction to their unacceptable behavior. They use your reaction to show others how unstable you are. They tend to lash out when when asked to take responsibility for their behavior. Gaslighters use their tactics for many reasons: control, power, entertainment, and sheer boredom. But the most common time you'll notice the gaslighting is when you point out their misbehavior or ask them to take responsibility for it. This is when they'll ramp up the abuse, twisting your words and rewriting reality. Even if you think you have a slam-dunk case against them with evidence and proof, they hurl a complete outrageous accusation at you, to destabilize you and put you on the defense. Even though you began the conversation with the intention of holding them accountable, you'll suddenly find that you're the one defending yourself or even apologizing to them. The gaslighters have extremely fragile egos and interpret any criticism as an attack on their entire identity. By calling them out on their hurtful behavior, you are deemed a threat to their careful and crafted world, so they seek to destroy you. See how much time I've got. Okay, still good. They are always the victim, no matter how horribly they treat others. One of the most frustrating qualities of gaslighters is that they are constantly the victim. Even when they abuse, criticize, judge, lie, and betray others, they somehow come out as the victim. This is just another way that they rewrite reality. They victimize others and then claim a victimhood, and ironically, they will angrily lash out at others to stop playing victim, because they always want to be the biggest victim. They claim others are smearing them, when they are the only ones attacking anyone. You could sit there ignoring their provocations completely, and they will still run around telling everyone how much of a lunatic you are, and how obsessed you are with them. You likely treated this person with an unusual amount of patience, kindness, and compassion. None of this matters to them. They have no loyalty or integrity. You eventually start to realize that they are allowed to insult and criticize you as much as they want. But the moment you simply ask them to stop, you are an abuser. Let's see how much time I have left. About a minute. You start questioning your inner world. You distrust your own emotions, identity, and values. This is perhaps the biggest and most important sign. Especially in familial and romantic dynamics, gaslighting can cause damage, long-lasting damage. When someone you love and trust uses this type of abuse, it's extremely confusing. It can cause a certain type of emotional trauma called PTSD, where you feel disconnected from the sensations in your own body. This is because you've stopped trusting yourself. Gaslighting implants a constant self-doubting voice inside the survivor, causing them to question their every move, interaction, and thought. This is an extremely exhausting way to exist, and will eventually lead to anxiety and depression. Let's see where I'm at. 30 seconds. It also makes you vulnerable to more gaslighting because your defenses have weakened, and the best gaslighting victim is the person who doubts themselves. You begin to overanalyze and ruminate on every little detail. You flip back and forth between my fault and their fault. Even when you settle on their fault, there remains a relentless voice inside of you that questions this reality. So that's gaslighting, and it's a pretty good article. I'll follow up. So, gaslighting, it's exhausting just kind of reading and talking about it because it's such a self-defeating thing. It's easy to give into it, especially when it's coming from a family member or, a spouse or someone that you've been with. And it's frustrating. It's endlessly frustrating because it's all about making you feel crazy. It's like it's kind of like an emotionally manipulative version of rabbit season, duck season from like old Looney Tune cartoons. And it really does make you feel crazy. Like you feel like you're just saying logical words and things get spat back at you. There's like no matter what happens, like you end up doubting your own sense of reality. You doubt how rational you feel because of how much this stuff gets thrown back at you. It's like in your mind, you're like, how is it possible that this stuff gets thrown back at me when what I'm saying is like 2 + 2 = 4, and they convince you that it's 5, and that you're the one that's nuts, that you keep saying it's 4, but it's 5, And is it 5 or is it 4? That's like the most bare bones way to put it. And it's just maddening. Unfortunately with my situation, it's so hard to separate the gaslighter from like the actual human being that is doing it. Meaning, like, in the instance of Bree, my wife, I shouldn't have said her name, but whatever, my ex-wife, she is a great person. I do love her dearly as a person, and I respect her, and I hope that, she continues to do okay. And, she's going to be the mother of my child, so I want her to be able to do the best that she can, and I want to be there to help her in the best way that I reasonably can. And with that, and with our relationship, it was full of that. There was so much of that going on that it was so hard to separate her as the person that I fell in love with from the person that would make me feel like I was crazy. And it was just it's such a hard thing to reconcile. You just feel like you feel like there's some part of you that could push that aside, like almost ignore it so that you can still enjoy that person, the core of that person. But it becomes just such a strong, like, in your face thing that it is like impossible to push aside. And ultimately I had to leave. I'm still communicating with her, though difficultly, because we are having a child together, and I want to cooperate in the best way that I can, because again, I don't feel that she's a bad person. I just think our communication dynamic fell apart. So this topic really came to mind. Well, someone posted an article and then kind of reminded me of this. The way I've been communicating is to kind of just put periods at the end of the sentence. And I've created enough distance to allow myself to remove myself from that. So when I feel like that's happening, and I've had it happen enough where I can see the signs of it and be able to separate myself from it, that I can just say, okay, this is it. I don't need to entertain any crazy ideas or additional things or give in. This is the end of the conversation. If you've been dying to start that podcast about doves, or about your favorite jacket, or about a long-lost love, or a murder mystery about a cat who murdered everybody, you can start it now on Spotify for podcasters. I've been on Anchor for a long time, and now it is officially Spotify for podcasters, and it has been a platform that has been growing for forever. And I love it, and I still use it to this day, and it has hosted this podcast for 500 plus episodes now. So I highly recommend it. It is free to use. Spotify for podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. I'm literally on my bed recording on my, the phone is on the bed, and I'm just talking, and it's not that complicated. And then you can distribute your podcast on Spotify and everywhere else that podcasts are heard. So video podcasts are available too if you want to show your pretty face and have people see you. And you can do all that too. So just do it. It's totally free, no catch. Give it a try. Spotify for podcasters. Let's go. So I'm curious to know if you've had any experience with gaslighting in your past, present, if you've done it. That would be really interesting. to hear. Yeah, I just wanted to share some of my personal experience. It's difficult to realize. It feels like baiting. It feels like you're being pulled into you're being trapped. It's like here's a nice statement, but it's like there's follow up, and then it's gonna be rah rah attack. That's just kind of, it could be unique to my situation, I guess, but there really is a lot a lot to it that really makes you feel that sense of self-doubt that the article talked about, just this constant questioning your own sanity and self-esteem, leading to depression and not being able to trust yourself. This feeling of like being outside of your body is what I'm feeling, and I've never been really able to define it as that, and reading it feels, there's like a strange sense of affirmation there. But it's nice. It's like figuring out a diagnosis so that you can decide what to do next. And for me, I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole a little bit more. I want to see how people who have dealt with long-term gaslighting have recovered or attempted to recover from it, because I feel like I'm still feeling the aftermath, and it's not something, it hasn't been very long. I'm still actively in it, really, despite this new life that I've got going on right now. So yeah, that was that. Just kind of like a bonus podcast, because I think gaslighting is an interesting topic. It's something that everyone should be aware of and look out for, and stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself in the sense that you have to pretty much just draw a line in the sand. It's not an attack thing. It's not something that you can really defend against. It's more of like, you have to create a clear barrier. Once, like, and you'll see that once you put your defenses up, that they will just freak out. And you have to kind of come to terms with like being able to just kind of separate, pull away from it, not engage with it, because there's no way you could win. There's just no winning. It's not possible with that type of person. It's just not. It's not in the cards for what that is. And it took me a long time to accept that, and I essentially had to run from it. And it's hard to talk about because I'm happy that I felt brave enough to separate myself from that, but I'm also completely disappointed that that's what it took. I didn't want that to happen. So I think being able to dive into it a little bit more is healthy for me, and I want to share it with you guys, and I hope that you learned something from this. And I'm happy to talk about it more. If you have any questions or if you have any experience with it, I will happily take call-ins on Anchor or Rival My Design on all the social channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Happy to chat. Let's do this. So that's it. I hope you have a good night, and I'll talk to you later. Hey everybody, I want to thank you guys for listening to the CNOTE Audio Extravaganza. If you would like to go to HiMyNameIsChristian.com, you can sign up for my newsletter where you'll get the written version of the podcast, and follow me on Rival My Design on all the social channels and all that good stuff. We can chat and have ourselves a jolly good time wherever it is that I am. So I really appreciate it. And thank you guys. I hope you have a good one.